Cool. Don't forget, scale up, CB. We've had a few good comments yesterday. Take a look. Okay, so I'm going to talk, so for those of you who aren't familiar with this term, demand generation, it's a pretty intuitive term, but demand generation is just really how do you generate demand for like what you do. And it's applicable in B2C, it's applicable in B2B. But demand generation, as the ways that we think about demand generation, is really kind of that intersection between sales and marketing. Like, who's responsible for driving leads to your company? Like, I don't know, it's some like weird in between, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing's role kind of in a modern B2B sales org. I'll talk a little bit about sales role here. This is a great kind of ways to think about your marketing strategy. This is from Predictable Revenue. I mentioned it yesterday, a book by a guy named Aaron Ross and Mary Lou Tyler. So really, to generate demand, you have kind of like 3 different like places or pieces like in your arsenal, right? You have seeds, that's like word of mouth, PR, that's some of like that community building that I was talking about, right? It takes time to pay off, but when it does, right, it pays off easy. They're inbound leads, they're warm, they bear fruit. It's like super, super easy to close them, right? Then there's nets, which is kind of marketing. I like have an idea of where the fish are, so I kind of cast my net, and I'm trying to go out, and I'm trying to grab them and bring them in. That's like your typical like marketing-based activities. And then you have spears, which is like, I know that you are the right buyer. I'm doing outbound activity directly to you. And based on what your business, and what he talks about in this book, is based on where your business, what your business does. It's not like this perfect pie where it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Each one of your business is going to have its own variation of this, right? Every single business is going to have, if you are more of an enterprise sale, for example, your average sales price is 50, 100, 200,000, you're going to have to throw a lot more spears. It just is what it is, right? HubSpot, we talked about a lot yesterday. HubSpot's a very kind of classic example. They were on record maybe like 4 years ago saying, we will never do outbound. We are inbound marketing, inbound marketing, inbound marketing. And now it's like, I think it's like 20 or 30% of the revenue comes from outbound because you can only get so many Coca-Colas to come to you. Like there's only so many of those people that exist. So for the most part, the way that I would think about this if I was all of you, the more B2C you are or transactional, the more seeds and nets you're going to be, right? The more enterprise you are, the more direct outreach you're going to have to do. And each one of you is going to have a sliding scale. I would say the big mistake that I see B2B companies make is they don't invest in the seeds early on. That you don't invest in these longer term things, like I talked about building your network, et cetera. You don't invest in that early on because you don't see the direct ROI, right? And when you're in those early stages, it's tough to think about what my business is going to look like 6, 12, 36 months from now. And so companies underinvest in like PR, branding type of activities and content, because they can't see the direct ROI. So my challenge and kind of my hope for all of you is one post a day, 2 things a day. It's like you don't have to go and build some massive arsenal overnight, right? So I think that's the big mistake that I see a lot of B2B companies make is they don't invest in that early enough. And the same on the flip side though, B2C companies should never be doing direct outreach one-to-one to people. Like, unless your product is a high ticket item that almost looks like a B2B, it's $2,500. Okay, $2,500 like B2C product needs to have a little bit of education and sales motion to it. A $50, $100, $200 product, I can't afford to spend time educating on you. I need you to click buy, right? So you have to think about spears are the most expensive, right? Those are humans. Well, I mean, marketing can obviously get really expensive too. All right, so this is a stat. This is one of my favorite stats. So from Gartner, again, like by 2020, we're going to be managing 85% of our sales process with technology, right? And again, this goes back to that stat that I showed you about more and more teams moving to like an inside sales model. Your buyer doesn't require a lot of interaction with you. They're going to want to self-select. They're going to want to pick their features. They're going to want to go through this. They're going to have a lot of information. So sorry, like Pierre, like I don't need you. Like yes, thank you, salesperson, but like. Chances are, I don't know if you guys have had this experience. When you go to buy a car now, you know more than that person selling the car many times, right? Like that car salesman, like you've probably done research on the other cars and their prices in that market. You have an idea of what a fair value is for that car. You've looked at the specs and the 3 other models that are like it. And the chances are that salesperson like doesn't know all of that. They know about their model. They know about their car. And B2B buying is going to start to look like that too. They're going to come to you. They're going to say, yep, I've already been on G2 Crowd. I looked at these 3 other tools. I saw that they do this and that you do this. Can you tell me a little bit more about your integration with Harvest? And that's what it's going to be like. And so salespeople are going to be like, I thought I was supposed to demo you, like I was supposed to show you a demo. The other thing that I want to talk about just a little bit when we think about demand generation is the role of marketing, right? That what's happening more and more is marketing's job is moving further down the funnel, right? It didn't used to be that marketing was like some awareness, some interest. Like, nope, marketing's job is to drive toward like a level of intent. Like, I'm not just like kind of interested. Like, there's like some level of intent. Like, that's marketing's job, right? And I think before we looked at a lot of this stuff as sales job. But again, what it means to be in sales is just being squeezed, right? Sales is giving up kind of current account selling. They're giving up some of the top of the funnel stuff. And again, like the value of the salesperson is diminishing. It's still valuable in the equation, just less value, right? And the reason this is happening is because of technology. Marketing couldn't, do like multi-touch attribution, which is basically the process of understanding all the different touch points to generate a lead. They couldn't do that because the technology didn't exist 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And so now, again, we're leaning on marketing departments. And again, this is why so many companies that are at your stage and a little bit further along, they underinvest in marketing early because they think sales should just be out there just banging the phones, and it's just short-sighted. You're not building that's not what your business is going to look like in the long term, I promise you. But it's easier. We like it. The reason we like to throw spears and do outbound is it makes us feel good. We're doing something, right? Like I can see the efforts. I made 80 calls and I generated this amount of appointments, whereas some marketing things can be a little bit more difficult to see at the surface level. What's the impact of one LinkedIn post that I put out that gets 120 likes and 30 comments? To then a guy who then comments on a post 2 weeks later and says, hey, Jake, we're looking for someone to come help our team. Like, what was the ROI of that one post? Like, I don't know. Like, and I don't even know how you would track it, right? So that goes back to that concept of seeds. Like, you want to build these kind of community things, and that's, again, is it marketing's job? Is it sales' job? Like, I don't know, right? It's starting to become this really weird mix. I got into it with this guy on LinkedIn last week about this exact topic where, we talked about people building their networks. He's like, well, that's marketing's job. And I was like, well, marketing can't make a salesperson build their own network. Marketing can't go and operate their LinkedIn profile for them. So again, this bleed is really happening. So again, what I want to do for a lot of you who are really early on and you're CEOs or you're thinking about building your teams, marketing can have a big impact. And again, marketing's job is becoming a bigger part of it than sales, right? And marketing's job is to get people more and more interested to that level of intent and then have sales come in and close the deal, right? Which I think, again, for a lot of you who've grown up in sales or knew what sales was, that just in your gut sometimes doesn't feel right. It's like, no, that's my job. I go out there and I hunt the deals and I get, even when I talk about it out loud, I get a little bit of that. But, so yeah, I'm just going to kind of talk about this. That whole, the SDR, the sales development function, didn't even really exist until 10 years ago. That whole idea that you'd have a separate role that would generate meetings, I think Aaron Ross did this started 15 years ago, right? We didn't do it. Salespeople did all that stuff. So again, that was the start. Then we created account managers and customer success people to take over current accounts. And you're just going to see it. As marketing gets better and better at pushing people to intent, what it means to be in sales is just going to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. The value is just going to not be there like it used to. Because I can go and get my education online now. I can go and see what everything I need to know. Salesperson, what value are you really adding here? Help me to buy, right? And that's really becoming what the job of a salesperson is just guiding them along a path. Hey, here's how other people do it. This is what it looks like. Here's what I know about the competition and what they do. Here are your options. How can I help? A lot more kind of service mindset. Okay, I think I asked before, how many of you have heard of account-based marketing or account-based sales before? I think we had just a few folks kind of raise their hand. Okay, so this is the crux of what I'm going to talk about for the next 30 plus minutes or so. Is account-based marketing is a lot of you who have been in sales or around sales for a while, you're going to be like, yeah, that's what I thought all sales was, but it's kind of a newer idea. The idea is that instead of having a bunch of leads, I'm going to go after these 1,000 companies or these 4,000 companies, instead, I'm going to focus more of my time going deeper on a smaller amount of accounts, right? At the highest level, and then we're going to create a strategy for each individual account. And marketing and sales work together to then go and penetrate those accounts individually, right? Before, marketing was doing more blanket activities, right? Marketing is doing like air cover white papers on finance or air cover white papers on whatever. No, it means you have like a pursuit marketing team or marketing team that is dedicated to helping you sales get in front of Walmart. And marketing is working with you with content to get in front of these top 10 retailers, which is how it should be, right? Marketing should be focusing on how are we going to help you sales get in front of your target accounts, not did I do this blanket air cover, right? And so this is just where we're headed, especially at enterprise sales, right? Mid-market and enterprise sales. Obviously, if you have a transactional sale, it's a little bit different, right? Like you can't afford to spend that much time and money going after an account that's going to spend $5,000 a year with you, right? That would be overkill, right? But account-based marketing is really, it's not a only strategy, it's usually an and. You're going to do your more bulk type stuff, but if you have an enterprise sale, you're going to carve out 20 to 40 to 60% of your time doing this more targeted work, right? So the concept of account-based marketing is I'm going to go after a smaller subset. Marketing and sales are working together to penetrate that account, right? And that's kind of the whole crux of account-based marketing. And for a lot of you, we talked about like, my man here's putting together his business plan for his. It's like cool. Like him and I talked about new home builders, right? So it's not all new home builders. It's like, great. Based on where I'm at the business plan kind of phase with, the first part of funding, the best home builders for me are these 20 here in Atlantic Canada. And now I'm going to put together a plan for those 20, to get in front of those 20. Right? It's marketing and sales working together and think about how am I going to get in front of these 20? What are all the different angles that we can use to get in front of those 20? Right? And that's kind of the whole crux of this idea of account-based. And that's why a lot of this stuff is even more relevant to the companies that are at step 0 or with like very few customers are getting ready. If the one thing that you can take away from today in this is to start small with a smaller group of more focused people, I'll have done my job. As opposed to just, hey, I'm only going to just spray 4,000. Again, like I'm okay with you doing like some of that, right? Like that's a part of your strategy is a little bit more volume, but a lot of it should be targeted accounts, right? All right, these are the times that you should use account-based marketing, right? Your market's oversaturated, prospects are hard to engage. Do any of you have like a marketing technology or an advertising technology? No? That's good. That's tough. Marketers are by far the most like hit up people, right? Because you have ad tech products, marketing tech products, there's thousands of them. All right, your company depends on complex, long deal cycles. Again, you're not seeing results. Like, look, you should spam the shit out of people until it stops working. Like, why wouldn't you? I don't want to make things overcomplicated. Like, if you can get results by just putting in custom fields into emails, you should do it. You should not do any of this stuff. You should just use custom objects in emails that are populated from your CRM to where it looks custom. Hey, I work with lots of VPs of operations with large fisheries in the Pacific Northwest. Those are all custom fields that I can put in, right? This is, the third bullet here is key. Like, if that stuff works, then do it. Like, I'm cool with it. But eventually it will plateau. Eventually the amount of people that will respond to generic custom object stuff will decline, and you will have to start to do this. So again, I'm totally fine with you doing more bulk activity early on, but there comes a point where you're going to have to do this, right? Because your results will plateau. And marketing and sales has to be ready to work together, right? This doesn't work if marketing isn't on board, right? And the problem you're going to have is, man, there are probably 93% of marketers are old school. They don't get it. They don't know how to work with sales. They think they know how to work with sales. Oh, I know how to work with sales. I create collateral for salespeople. Guess what those salespeople do with your collateral? Trash can. That PDF you made, do you know what the open rate on that PDF your sales team sent? You know what I mean? Like, I know some of you are marketers, so I love you, but like marketers just aren't used to having to partner with sales teams, and that's really what it is. And like, it's just what you're going to have to do. If you're a marketer who doesn't know how to walk around, and same thing for sales leadership though too. If sales leadership doesn't know how to leverage marketing, they're in trouble the same exact way. And most sales leaders don't know how to work with marketing either. These groups have been really independent for a long time, but we're seeing it over and over and over again. There's a company, Dynamic Signal, out in the Bay, and they've got a killer just sales and marketing alignment. We've got a podcast that's coming out where we interviewed their head of SDR. she reports it. She runs 40 of the sales development reps. She reports into marketing. And so we talked a lot about why does she report into marketing? How does that help? How does marketing work with her team? She has 40 people doing outbound. 40. Every single one of them has marketing support for a select group of accounts. Every single one. Right? Getting people into the top of the funnel is like sometimes like the hardest part, especially if you have an enterprise product. Right? So again, this idea of marketing and sales, like they have to be ready to work together. Here's a bunch of stats that say you should do it because it works. Like there's data to show that like companies that actually do account-based are seeing results. All right, so this, again, for a lot of you, if you sell an SMB product, this account-based stuff is only going to be for your top clients, right? I want to preface that for all of you. If your product is a small amount, right, a few $1,000s, you're not going to be able to afford to do account-based. It's going to be too expensive for you, okay? This is for mid-market, enterprise. When I think about something like ProtoCase, this is more about, like, how do you roll up to Boeing to do, like, a big deal, as opposed to, like, all the different, like, micro deals, right? Because those individual deals aren't very much, but Boeing as a whole, I would have a more account-based approach, but on the micro for those deals, So it's just, a lot of you have to just think about that piece. This is from our friends at Topo. This is just some ideas of like the sales stack. Again, we're going to share these slides with you. Okay, so these are the steps that you guys should start to write down. So again, you guys want tactical. You want to know how to move from kind of like, I'm not doing anything to this. I'm going to literally tell you every single step to do and make it like stupid actionable for all of you, okay? All right, I'm going to go over on this side now. Is that all right? Did I come over here? Switch it up? I do? I'm like into the background back here. This just gets hot in front of this light. Okay. All right, step one, align sales and marketing. All right? So again, you cannot execute an A/B and play if sales and marketing aren't worked together. It's cool. Like if you don't have a marketing department, that's great. Then your sales leader or whoever it is or your CEO has to kind of like work as a part of that. Right? And really what that means is, again, that we understand what the goals are. Our goal is that over the course of this quarter, we want to get in front of these 30 accounts. Cool. Now we know what the goal is. Marketing is what you're doing today to get us in front of these 30 accounts? No? Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this other stuff? We've all agreed that the goal is to do like X, Y, Z. Not that that's your only job. You probably have some other stuff too, right? We have joint goals, right? What are the resources? Who's going to handle what? And what are the KPIs? How are we going to know if this is working? This last step is what companies don't spend enough time on. And like in the very beginning, what does success look like? It might not be that we got meetings with all 30. It might be that, over the course of this quarter, because it's the first time we're doing it, we got meetings with 5 decision makers, and we heard back and got no's from 10 or something. You got to think about what your KPIs are going to be in the very, very beginning so you know what to track. A lot of you are just, your sales and marketing strategy should never be to just do your best. That's a strategy. If your strategy is like, great, how many leads are we going to generate? As many as we can. How many sales are we going to make this month? As many as we can. Like, no. Like, you need to have goals. You need to have KPIs that you're trying to reach for, right? And you'll see a massive change in your organization. Obviously, it sounds kind of counterintuitive to say, like, don't do your best. My point is that you won't know what your best is until you set a mark. So I think a lot of people, the reason they struggle with sales and marketing is, again, especially in the early days, they don't set those bars. Well, how would we know what the bar is? Like, I don't know. How does any company know what the bar is in the early days? Just like set a mark. Try to use some data to base it off of, but like you have to have something to shoot for, right? So step one is just sitting down in a room, deciding what is our goal, who's going to do what, and what does success look like, or what are the things we want to track. That's it, right? Just getting everyone on the same page, and this can be one of the most difficult parts, right? And being realistic about it, guys. Not we're going to get in front of 100 accounts this month. Like you're like 3 people, dude. Like it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Be realistic. Start small, right? Start with something that you feel like you can act against. Okay. The next step, I'm actually going to pull up, I think, another deck too. I've talked about this at length, and hopefully I'm like beating it into your skulls. It's ICP is ideal customer profile. The key letter here is ideal. Not could they be a possibly, maybe, whatever a customer. Who is your ideal customer? These are the people you should be spending 99% of your time on. Let the other people get there, or let the product expand to be able to get there. So again, I want you to think about, what do these people look like, right? So again, like you have a product in construction, you have a knee brace. Not who are all the people that could use a knee brace and all the people that need what we do from a construction standpoint. Go back and look at your current customers. What do they look like if you have current customers, or what you think your current customers are going to look like, and focus your time on them. Account-based marketing is much better time spent when it's people that I already know should, based on kind of look-alike, right, have a higher propensity to buy from me. Do not try to boil the ocean early on, right? Like we talked, you're putting together your business plan, right? Your business plan, dude, go ahead and talk. The market is 8 billion people and $1 billion, and like, I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want in that, but when you go to execute it, don't pay attention to any of the VC shit, right? Instead, go focus on the people, like go focus on where the money is, right? It's with those like smaller subset. And I can guarantee you every entrepreneur who's done this 1, 2, 3 times is gonna tell you that this is the most important thing. Their first startup, they didn't do this, they did okay, etc. Second one, they did better. The third time, they're like, nope, blinders on, this is what we do this, and then we create beachheads. There's a great book, Crossing the Chasm. It's like an oldie but goodie. It's Moore, I think's the guy's name. But it talks about this, like if you're going after big verticals, you want to try to create beachheads like that are in like sub verticals, or don't try to boil the ocean. You try to go after one, unless you have a product like a Google, like which none of you do. But if you have like a niche product, focus on where the money is, right? Focus on where the dollar is. So all of you, the next step to thinking about doing more account-based marketing work, focusing your accounts. How many of you feel like you do a good job of this today? Like what about those of you with customers? Yeah, tell me about it. How do you guys think about this? What is your product? So they all.
We're a telecom company. Primarily, it's internet connections that we provide.
Okay. Businesses or consumers?
To businesses.
Businesses. Okay.
So we analyze, who are the decision makers at those companies. Do we want to talk to the CEO, or do we want to talk to the head of IT? And then we look at the industries that they're in.
Yep.
And then we retarget those that look similar.
Yep.
So one that we've had particular success in is car companies.
Car companies.
Yeah.
Like auto dealers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so they tend to own more than one dealership in New Brunswick. I don't know elsewhere. So multi-site deals are fantastic for us. And they've been successful. We go
Yep.
and specifically target them. And so we can say, here's how we've helped others.
Exactly right. That's when you start to create that snowball, right? Once you get 10 in New Brunswick, it's like, it's easy. Yep. Who else? What about you guys? You guys have like an enterprise sale, or is it all over the place, or the vertical? Yeah.
So there's probably like 10 very large enterprises that we can focus on. So it's
Yep.
not like it's auto. This is done by autopilot for us.
Yep.
In terms of how we go to market. So we have 3M being our biggest customer right now. We're definitely on the track to bring on other customers that look exactly like that.
Yep.
It's hard not to be with the product.
Right. Well, it's good. I mean, I would say within the 10, though, there's probably 2 that probably aren't a good fit. Whether, because I think a lot of it is you want them to be a fit. Well, they should be a fit, as opposed to could they be a fit based on timing, who their CEO is, incumbents, also married to the CMO. Like there's certain companies that, like, even though they look like they're in your market, they're not going to be a fit. Like, that's cool. Like, it's all right. Go spend time with people who want to do business with you. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us feel like we've got to go and, I don't know, try to make everyone the right fit. So again, build your ICP, right? Go small to go big. This is another Aaron Ross quote. Again, go and talk to any entrepreneur. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do this. Go talk to any entrepreneur who's done it 2 or 3 times. I promise they're all going to tell you the same thing: focus. The more that you focus in the early stages, you have a much higher likelihood to win. Again, like it can be so, and trust me, I know it, especially for those of you who haven't raised money or haven't raised a lot, dude, I get it. There's that temptation to go and chase down this thing or that thing. And like, sometimes, you got to do what you got to do for your business, right? So I get it if you've got to go and do some things that are less focused, but not doing custom builds, not doing white label stuff. Like that's where the customer tries to pull you in to do all this white label. You guys do custom, so it's a little different. But, you know, like, those are the companies that win. They're like, can you build us a walled garden version of what you're doing? You're like, nope, it's a marketplace. Like, it is what it is. You know, like, those are the companies that win, the companies that stay focused for as long as you possibly can. I totally get it. If you need money to pay your mortgage and to keep the business afloat, God bless you. I know you've got to do what you've got to do, but know that you're short-circuiting your business long-term. Every custom thing that you choose to do for one customer that's not applicable, you just killed a month to 2 months of your dev cycle, right? Fast forward that over the course, you do that over the course of 3 years, right? You continue to build custom stuff that enterprise customers want, right? And guess what? If you push back on most customers, they'll be okay without it. You hear it and you're so happy to sell to 3M or to whoever, you're like, okay, yeah, we'll build it, right? But in reality, had you just pushed back a couple of times and just said like, hey, what if we could do this instead? A lot of them will be like, okay, yeah, that'll be fine. You know, there are times when they'll push back harder, but again, my point is that you don't want to get caught up in these like custom build for people that may or may not be a fit. You always want to make sure the features you're building are going to be for the broader audience. Okay.
It's a bit ironic because when you're selling to a big enterprise like that, sometimes the people that are buying from you have no idea what the product is.
Right.
The end user knows, and then you hear some, oh, what happens if you do this? So you have to educate them.
There's a ton of education, man.
What we're actually doing, even though they're buying.
Yeah. Well, they trust the people. Hopefully, they trust them to an extent. But then in their mind, then they start to think big. Well, at times they can start to think bigger. You know, I was talking to someone else. Like, I would argue that 99% of you, the innovation department, is not your ideal customer, right? And a lot of people, like especially startups, you guys get real geeked out when you hear innovation center. They'll do this. You know the budget of the innovation center? Nothing.
For us at the sales, we were trying R&D when we got into sales and marketing.
Took off. Exactly right. The business has the money. Innovation people, yeah, they want to kind of be the people to get you in. No budget. Immediately like, great, awesome, you're in the innovation, da-da-da, let me tell you a little bit about how we work. So let's do this. We'll put together a proof of concept. Here's what the proof of concept looks like. And then we'll go meet with facilities operations. We'll talk to them. That's where you need to be. Or sales or marketing, depending on like where your product is or what you do. Right? Innovation is not, very, very, very rarely is an innovation department going to take you from first meeting to massive, you know, multi-million-dollar contract. Right? But they're going to tell you they are. Again, we've seen this. We've done a lot of work in like the IoT space, for example, right? And there's a lot of innovation officers, et cetera, in industrial and consumer manufacturing and packaged goods. You just talk to the guys who've been doing it for a while, and they're like, "No, man, we're not talking innovation. Like, we're going straight to the operations, straight to sales and marketing, straight to like product or whatever it is, right?" So again, demographics. So think about, you know, you want to think about your ideal customer profile like in really kind of two things. There's ideal customer profile and there's buyer personas. The ideal customer profile is like, what are the industries, what do these companies look like, what are their demographics, right? The buyer personas are then who are the people within the company. What are the 3 or 4 different people? Because again, I showed you that stat from Gartner yesterday. There's a lot of people that are involved in your sale, right? Even if you're selling a bionic knee, there's probably 2 or 3 people involved, like the husband and wife, you know, like those are your ICPs, right? But within the buyer personas, there's like probably 3 different types of males, 4 different types of females that are going to have a higher likelihood to buy a bionic knee. If they don't look like this, they're not going to buy, right? For you, I guarantee, already fit, guarantee it. Those are the people that are investing that as opposed to buying the 20 whatever it is. Like, there's just some things, like it's not every male between the age of 45 and 60. It's males that do this, who do this, who do this, who do this. That's our buyer persona. So that way on the very first call, if I'm in sales, I'm like, nope, this dude's not going to buy. Next. This dude's not, you know, that's why buyer personas are such an important twin to this. Look at Barry. Man, that guy's, he's thoughtful. Yeah.
When you have, let's say, a couple different personas that you're
Yep.
needing to target, but there is a level of education that's required for them to kind of put it in the context of their business.
Yep.
Have you seen anyone do that education piece well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When we talk about we're going to have a section later where we talk about complex deals. And whenever you start to get in deals where there's multiple decision makers, there's different groups that you need to talk to differently. The strategy is divide and conquer, because it's really, when you get in those larger meetings, how many of you have been in meetings where you have like 4 or 5 different groups like that are at the table and they all have like competing interests, and IT is the worst, right? IT is never your friend. Like in like 99% of cases, all IT wants to do, safe, secure, block. Well, how does this integrate with our blah, blah, blah? Like, shut up, dude. We're trying to talk about like the business value, and you're sitting here asking about some API integration? Like, dude, no, like we're not there yet. You know what I mean? So I'll get into that this afternoon, or like right after lunch, actually. But the key is that you have to divide those conversations out, so I can speak to IT, I can speak to marketing, and I can speak to operations all differently. Because that's what happens when you get in those big meetings and you try to pacify everyone. It comes across as this like weird muddled message. So yeah, it's about isolating them. Yeah, because again, and I cannot have IT in a room with decision makers. I can't. In like 92% of cases, right? Don't be wrong, there are some forward-thinking CIOs. They all think they're forward-thinking, right? CIOs and CTOs who are very wonderful people, right? But a lot of them, they want safe and secure. They think they're doing the best thing for the organization by like shutting everything down. They're not, right? They're protecting work. Oh man, wait, we gotta implement this. Oh God, I gotta go vet this stuff. HR is another one. HR, safe, secure, employee relations, right? HR is in the room. Well, what is this? This is HIPAA. Shut up. We're trying to talk about ROI. We're trying to talk about business impact right now. And you're talking about HIPAA. Like let's have that conversation like 2 conversations from now. Like, when it actually matters. But there's all kinds, like finance can go either way sometimes. But yes, the answer to your question is yes. I'm going to talk about that quite a bit. So there's demographics, and then there's also, whenever you're building buyer personas, I'm going to send out, I've got an example deck. Where's Bob? Permjot, if you can remind Bob to send me, I'll send out a buyer persona example, if you can just remind me. To where you guys can like build these yourselves. Guys, I used to think that this was like an arts and crafts exercise. Like, oh, we'll build our buyer personas and we give them all names and like you're supposed to give them names. But I've just realized like when you hire new salespeople, when new people are coming, even engineers, it doesn't matter. They're trying to get up to speed on your company and what you do. These buyer personas are awesome because I'm like, hey, you engineer, who you're building for him. Right? Hey, like what you're doing it for this person. Hey, salesperson, like don't just hire a salesperson and expect them to just like listen to calls. Instead, it's like, hey, these are the 6 different people that we sell to. This is who they are. This is what they care about. Man, it's going to help your people ramp so much faster. And all that knowledge is all in your head. It's just getting it out on paper. Just go spend, literally this exercise will take you a day, 1 day. And I cannot tell you how many companies skip this. And instead, they expect salespeople or marketing people or other people to get up to speed by just like listening into calls because you're too lazy to go and lock yourself in a room and do that grunt work of like building these things out. Because they will help everyone get aligned around like who is our customer? Who do we build for? Who do we sell to? Right? That's important that everyone in your organization knows that, right? But we also look at, like other identifiers. Are they married? Do they have children? How old are they? What gender are they? What race are they? All these things play a factor into like who this person is, right? If it's 25 to 30, single, no kids, I'm going to talk to them differently than 45, married, 2 kids, lives in, wherever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they both have the same job title, but the things that they care about or do are night and day. So that's why building buyer personas can be so important. What are the goals, right? How are they measured, et cetera? What are the challenges that they face, and how do we help that? So imagine I just started your company. I'm a sales rep. I just started your company. You say, great, let me tell you about, like whenever we work with VPs of operations, what are they, who are they and what do they do? Here's their typical goals, here are their challenges, and here's how we help that. That'd be pretty helpful, right? Like if I'm a new hire at your company to like build this out for me, Think about when I want to start to go and write messaging, I can just take it all from here. I don't have to go guess. I don't have to go shadow 4 calls. For all of you who are ramping sales team, shadowing is not training. People do not learn by osmosis. It's just not true. You know what I mean? It's a part of it. I'm okay. Like, you should be doing it. You need to be role-playing. You need to be feeding them this information. Like why a lot of early stage companies sputter with their first few hires is you guys have a preconceived notion that salespeople just know how to sell. And it's just not true. Most salespeople are used to executing a system. If you go and work at Oracle, you're executing a play. I go and I work at some big, ocean tech company. I'm executing a play that's been being executed for the last 15 years. And you're a small company. You come in and you're like, Johnny Smith knows how to sell. I'm sure he'll do fine here. right? Is that how you'd hire an engineer? Oh, yeah, that dude does Python. Yeah, get in there, code. No, that's insane. That dude would wreck your code base. That's what you're doing on sales. You give them no playbook, no plan, no anything. You're like, just get in there and code. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way that you can't scale a sales organization that way. You can't. Sure, I can go find 2 or 3 lone wolves who are out there doing their own thing, hustle. I can't scale that. It's cool if you want to do 5 million, 10 million in revenue. If that's cool to you, you know, great. Go and hire a bunch of lone wolves. Do it. Cool, I'm good with that. But most of you are trying to like raise money and do like 5 or 10 million is not going to be interesting to anybody, right? Therefore, you're going to have a playbook. The sooner that you start to build this stuff out and have that playbook, that one, these people are going to be more successful. You're going to be able to attract better talent. Good salespeople don't want to come to shows. And that's what probably your sales organization looks like, is a show, right? And I think a lot of people, they think that salespeople want that. You think that salespeople want like all this autonomy and no, man, salespeople want to come in and make money. They want to come in and execute. So again, you'll be able to attract better talent by doing this type of stuff. Quotes, objections, again, look how thoughtful he is. Super thoughtful. So again, we'll give you guys this template so you guys can just do it. Again, it's one of the most valuable exercises that you can do. As a company, do it with your executive team, do it with like the people that matter, do it with your sales team. Who do we sell to? Who do we buy to? And you'll find like, you know, hopefully everyone's on the same page. Maybe some people aren't, right? But then you can get everyone on the same page, which is really exciting. Okay, next step, identify the accounts, right? So how can you do that? I would suggest like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is probably one of the better ways, right? It lets you sort by very specific industries, lets you sort by very specific locations and verticals. So now that you have this kind of information, now we have to decide what are the accounts going to be, right? I talked to you before about other tools. Owler is a really good free tool that will help you kind of pull in company insights, OWLER. That will help you pull in company insights. But yeah. But again, I think a lot of this is most of this is applicable to B2C too, because your target accounts are influencers. If you're in B2C, your target accounts are channel deals. It's the same type of thing. Like, you know, if you think about, okay, I've got my marketing strategy for my tea that I'm selling, right? I'm selling tea, I'm doing more marketing things. Then I have my top, these are the 5 influencers because they look and they do these things. And I'm going to treat them like a targeted account. You know, even in B2C, like whether it's a wholesaler or distributor or reseller or influencer, you know, kind of understanding like what is my best path to maybe do to blow this thing up and go and unlock 1,000 new customers. You know, so those are, I think all of this is applicable even if you're in B2C because you're going to have people that have a higher likelihood of exploding your business, potentially. Okay, so as we do this, don't worry about predictive selection. So again, as I said before, this isn't an only strategy, except for you guys. You have 10 potential target customers. You're only doing ABM, only. Like, that's all you're allowed to do. You cannot do bulk spam. It would be a complete waste of time, right? For the rest of you, you'll usually have at least 2 strategies, right? As you get bigger, you'll have 3. It'll be our ABM approach that we're spending 20, 30% of our time on based on how big our deal size is, and then we'll have kind of our bulk customized approach, where we're being smart. By the way, bulk customized is not company and first name. It's not, that's lazy. It's not good enough, right? So I'm going to talk to you about like what good emails look like as well too. But again, just understand that. Think about your hiring people. It's like, dude, you're going to be spending 25% of your day doing these targeted, highly like research activities, one-to-one, highly personalized touch points to mark. And then the other part of your day, you're going to be sending out more like a little bit more volume still with some personalization. Right, so I want you to think about, like, as you select your accounts, you have your kind of tier 1s that you're going to do your kind of account-based approach with, your tier 2s that might be secondary. For those of you who are B2C, it's the exact same thing. Man, if we can get one of these 10 influencers, I'm going to DM her every single day, or him, or like whatever it is, every single day. These people, you know, again, maybe I hire someone in the Philippines to do some of that for me. Right, so it's the same type of strategy. All right, so let's take a quick break. We're going to come back into KPIs here. So again, alignment, define the buyers, define the companies, right? That's just how you start. The reason that so many companies fail at outbound, and then let's go grab is there water? Yeah, good, water. And we'll just break for like 10 minutes. We'll come back at 20 after. The reason that so many companies fail at outbound is they don't take the time to do what we're talking about right now. They just rush into it. They're like, yeah, we know our buyer. It's these people. And they rush into it as opposed to taking the time to like define who the buyer is, be more thoughtful about who they're, because there's like an old sales mantra, like sales is a numbers game. Like, yeah, but I'm going to try to stack the deck in my favor, like to go after like a better swath of people who I think might actually convert. So I don't disagree that you do need to play some amount of odds, but I'd rather spend more of my time going after a smaller subset. It's not all fishermen. It's fishermen in these locations that look like this, under the age of this. So why not like spend more of my time with those people, right? And that's really all I'm saying here. I'm not saying don't play the numbers a little bit, but I am saying stack the deck in your favor, you know? Start to think about it. So all right, let's take like a quick 10. A lot of the things that we're talking about now are some of the, we'll call it like the grunt work, right, of like really building outbound. A lot of you want to build outbound, and I think, again, I promise you that if you think about just taking your time and just being a little bit more thoughtful, it's going to pay off massive dividends. So the next thing is like, what are we going to track? So we talked a little bit about this at step 1, but just really understanding like what are the things that we're going to track. You know, the whole point of ABM isn't like let's say if you're selling into, I'll just use 3M for example. Getting one meeting at 3M is not an account penetration, right? 3M, like maybe for their product there's one buyer. For a lot of other places, there's probably like 10 people at 3M who could like potentially be buyers. So account penetration is like, we want to have meetings with like 4 different people or something like that, right? It's not just one meeting, right? If you're selling into bigger or mid-sized companies, one meeting's not going to be good enough, right, with one person. So that's what account coverage means. 20 is even better, man. Depends on how big the companies are. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about messaging. Let's talk about like how to think about deploying messaging. Again, the difference between your typical outreach and account-based outreach is that marketing is working with you to customize the messaging for that account, right? Now, granted, it's not that we can't repurpose that exact same blog post, that exact same whatever. We can repurpose that. Again, if you do a top 10 list for retailers who are doing really well on this type of blah, 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 I can use that for all 10 retailers. I can just tweak it, you know what I mean? So it's not that each piece of content needs to be customized, it's that we're just, well, each piece of content does need to be customized. I don't need to develop new content for every new outreach, right? These types of things do really, really well. How many of you guys are producing content on a weekly basis? How many? A few? 2 in the back? What's up, guys? Just hanging out? I like it. Okay, so a handful of you. For those of you, are you guys not weekly? Why not? No excuse. All right, hey, dude, I like it, man. The key is, guys, there's enough freelance writers out there. Like, we found really Upwork. I'll go back to Upwork, giving them a lot of shout-outs. Like, Upwork is great for freelance writers. Like, really, really great. These people will write you blog posts for, like, $45, right? And the most efficient way to do it, like, this is as a CEO in particular, we pick a topic, they interview me, it takes me 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm done with it, and she just ghostwrites it. Like, it's easy to produce content. I'm on the phone, I'm doing this, I'm doing whatever. Like, producing content is not difficult, right? Again, and plus, even if you're B2C, again, it's the same thing. Like, you need to be putting out content. Get someone to ghostwrite your stuff for you. You don't have to do it yourself.
What if you're in an industry that like has a high level of base knowledge that you need, like similar to the audio?
Yeah.
For us, I mean, it's difficult for just somebody to come in and write something without that base knowledge, right?
That's why I'm saying interview.
Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly right. Like, in these niche interviews, like, it is silly to expect you to be able to hire a writer who can write about your space. Now, granted, if that you keep working with that person over the course of 6 months, then there's time. But no, that's why we do interviews. It's the same thing with MySpace. Like, I can't expect a person to talk about sales and marketing the way that the rest of my team can. So she just does interviews. So lots of interviews, right? So it's not that the barrier to entry. Again, you can find someone to do your social media management for $10, $15, $20 an hour. Now you get what you pay for, right? So don't expect a lot. But my point is, like, there's ways that you can hack together a marketing team relatively inexpensive. You know, but step 1 is get a content writer, right? Get someone, because that same content writer can then pull out from that blog post, that content writer can go pull out 15 tweets from that one blog post or 15 LinkedIn posts, You know what I'm saying? So you can repurpose, HubSpot kind of came up with this model that a lot of people have just been ripping off. You take one ebook that then, you write an ebook, right? That's, 5 pages, 10 pages long. That then becomes 8 blog posts. That then becomes, 14 social shares per blog post. And this is kind of a play that just companies have been running for 4 or 5 years now, right? But I can't remember who exactly I was talking to. We're finding just long form, like ebook level content, it doesn't get a ton of play on social, man. Like people just aren't feeling it, Like we spent all this time and effort writing this massive GDPR ebook, and on LinkedIn, and then it gets like, 1,000 views. You're like, what why are we doing? Like we stopped. So we've stopped doing a lot of ebook stuff. We're doing a lot more like short form content, like page long max stuff on LinkedIn. I think the way that we want to consume media, the way that your buyers is just changing. Think about how we consume media versus how we consume media. It's great that you still read a newspaper, right? Most people don't sit down with their cup of coffee and sit down and have a day with the newspaper. Instead, it's quick, soundbite. Yeah.
Have you found any good ways to brainstorm content ideas for those?
Yeah.
Assuming personas exist.
Yeah, I mean, stay away from like the trend stuff and prediction for the most part. For most people, don't feel like you have to be ahead. I'll just try to look at what's something that you know really, really well. Like that's where, to me, a lot of it starts. Like, what are the areas that you know really, really well? The other thing is I just look at what other people are posting about. There's no I don't have like a secret thing. Like that Bombara, that site I was telling you about. They do like trend analysis of like keywords people are looking for, but it's a paid service. But yeah, honestly, it's not that scientific. I think it's more about what are other people talking about? What are people that I think are interesting or actually have a good opinion and have followers? It's pretty interesting the people that you view as talking heads and how little social media following they have. Like it's all in your head that this person's a thought leader. So I think that the biggest thing is just research. Just look at what other people are talking about and the things that or if there's a niche that people aren't spending as much time talking about. Because again, with social media, I can test that. Let's go deep on this for a couple weeks. If nobody's feeling it, then go back to where the herd was. But nothing like scientific. Okay, next. Find the contacts. My guys at Security, they talked about this. They use that tool called Nimble. There's a lot of different tools that you can use to find people's like contact information. Again, in the States, like ZoomInfo is a really good generic one. Lead Genius is a really good one if you want custom data. It's only like a couple of bucks per content, between $1 and $2 or $3 per contact. And then Discover.org. I talked to you guys a little bit about Discover.org. So again, we've now picked our accounts. We find the contacts. Again, or go hire some people on Upwork. They can do it as well too. And then build cadences, okay? So this is where we start to get into like the interesting stuff, which is like, okay, what goes into a cadence, right? To us, every cadence every kind of touch point that you have, and we were just talking to Mark at the break about event follow-up. Event follow-up's the same thing. Almost all of our cadences have these 3 touch points. There's calls, there's emails, and there's social touch points, right? That's kind of like table stakes now. It used to just be calls, then it became more emails. Now calls are coming back, and now it's social, and I would argue there's maybe some other things at the enterprise level. Enterprise is different. Enterprise, I'm doing hosted events. I'm going to show you some cadences that are like super enterprise, for example. Okay, so let's talk about like some ideas about how to think about personalization, okay? This can be, again, and I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed. It's okay if you if you're at step 0. Like you don't have to be able to do all this stuff and you're like, Jake, I don't have any ebooks. Jake, I don't have a PDF. Yeah, again, it goes back to like the idea of ghostwriting. Like again, you're at the business plan phase. I could go and produce an ebook in 1 week about the importances of egress windows, like egress exits and fatalities over the next whatever, just by hiring someone to ghostwrite and write it as they interview me for an hour. Like producing content is not hard. There's tens of thousands of people that freelance, and that's all they want to do is write your content for you. So like it's not that hard to get to that point. The other thing I'm going to call out here is video. more and more of our clients, we're using video and outreach. I would call it the enterprise level in particular. Every single one of our clients is using video, every single one. Right? There's a tool called Vidyard. There's another one called Videolicious that allows you to record straight from your desktop or your iPhone. Both of them integrate with Outreach and SalesLoft as well too. So in my Cadence, I can create a personalized video. So we're doing personalized videos as a part of this outreach. It crushes. Like open rates when you're like, 3M/blue light personal video or like customized video for Tom, 65% open rate, guaranteed. Guaranteed. Like we've just seen it all across clients. We can get 50, 60, 70% open rates by having like a personalized video in the subject line, right?
What message would you send in those personalized videos?
It's quick. It's like maybe like 30 seconds, right? And it's like, and you can put, what we typically will do is we'll layer, you know what I'll do at lunch? I'll pull one up for you. I'll pull up like one from our clients. Think like opening sentence or two, video, and then like some additional information. Like, hey Mark, Jake with Skaled, I sent you an email yesterday, based on my work with these two other industrial manufacturers, Schlumberger and blah, blah, blah. I know that you're probably thinking about these 4 things. I'd love to set up 25 minutes or so next week. Take a look at what I put together. Let me know if that time works for you, and I'll follow up with you next week. Thanks, man. It's like quick. You're not trying to overly pitch. I hate the I'd love to. I can't believe I just said that out loud. But don't say I'd love to. Don't listen to what I just said there. Never, I love this little, don't do it. I don't know why I just did it.
It's basically a way of getting around the crowded email.
Exactly. It's just a better way to do email.
You already need to know the contact. So you're saying the first email.
Second, yeah, usually first or second email. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good, and it also works really well on deals that have gone dark. So somebody who hasn't got back to you in like 3 or 4 weeks, sending them a video. Hey, what's going on, John? Apologize, I've been out on vacation for the last couple of weeks. Thought I'd send you a quick note. Really looking forward to working with you and the team at Schlumberger. Do me a favor, just respond back. Let me know kind of like what your schedule looks like next week for us to pick back up the conversation. Looking forward to it, man. Hope you're doing well. So deals gone dark is another really good use case for this. No, it's a thumbnail. No, the video will pull up. It'll be in the email. Yeah, no, do not send a link. Nobody will click it. It's a thumbnail in the video. Yeah. You can download Vidyard. There's a free extension. It's called Viewed It. V-I-E-W-I-T. Maybe there's an E-D-I-T. Just go to Vidyard, and it's a free Chrome extension. That'll just take it. Yeah. Like, more and more people. Yeah, it's newish. Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. And that's why it works, because we're at step 0 of it. Because again, to your point, like the videos cut through the noise a little bit more. And again, there's cheesy videos. Like the thing is, I know when it's not personalized. Like, hey, how's it going? Look, I saw that you're doing blah, blah, blah. Like there's ways that you can hack it, and I can make it sound like kind of like it's personalized, but in reality, I'm copying and pasting that video for 15, 20 people. Or I could just do one that's called Jake, and then it was for every Jake or something like that. A guy requested me on LinkedIn last week, and it was like, all Jakes unite, and that was his name. And it's like about getting all Jakes. And he had Jake from State Farm. I don't know if you guys have seen that commercial here in Canada, but the guy kind of ruined our name. But it's pretty funny. But yeah, so video is just something, it's really not that difficult, guys. Like video, again, it goes back to when I was talking about social. Video is more daunting than it is like actually hard. Like shooting a video is actually not that hard. It's just, we perceive it as daunting and difficult. Okay, so this is a super advanced cadence. I'm just gonna tell you this in advance. I'm gonna show you some more like action, like more easy to action on, but I do want to get your guys' head thinking about these are the plays that some companies are running like right now, right? So touch point 1 might be a piece of direct mail, right? Or a lot of it like touch point or the very first action in the cadence might be research or something, but door opener. Once it's delivered, introductory email that kind of goes back to some piece of custom content. Follow-up email with a call from the rep saying, hey, hope you got this, blah, blah, blah. Then put them into some type of like marketing automation nurturing stream. Then I might want to do some targeted ads, then do an event in their territory, then do a follow-up. So these are just some ideas. Like events should be a part of your cadence strategy, especially for you guys and especially for you. If you're in a niche industry or you're a super enterprise, events crush, right? And just so you know what when I talk to a lot of marketing leaders, sponsoring events, hosted events, good, right? Like companies are seeing a lot less ROI from like I sponsored something, as opposed to, what I was talking to these guys about is like, look, at the next conference, and then, she was talking about what they do. They call it, what, Beers and Peers? Beers and Peers? I love it. Is that what we're seeing companies that are crushing it? Those are the companies that are literally, they're setting up like the dinners, the curated dinners. They're bringing in a speaker for the conference. They're doing Beers and Peers or whatever it is around the conference. So hosted events. Again, you're spending maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to get 4 or 5 customers together with like 2 or 3 prospects. Like the ROI of that's huge, right? So more and more companies are doing more hosted stuff as opposed to sponsorship, So again, I just want to show you some examples. This is another like example. Customized email, cold call, connect on LinkedIn, newsletter that's been repurposed, that's customized to that industry, follow-up link, engage on Twitter, follow up with it like a testimonial. A lot of what you have to think, like, I'm going to show you some examples of emails too. All I'm trying to do in an interaction to get a meeting is I want you to see yourself in the mirror. Like, I get it, Mark. Like, I know where you're at. I've been there. I know what you're thinking about, etc. It's not about explaining your product. It's about saying, look, I know what other VPs of operations in industrial manufacturing do. I know what your pain points are. We work with these guys and help to solve those pain points. Let's set up time to meet. That's like the general construct of like every email. Not you trying to explain this long what you do. It's instead like, I get it, dude. I get it. I know as a fisherman, you're thinking about these 2 or 3 things. How can I increase my earnings every year? How do I make sure the government doesn't try to screw me out of my license like Paul Gracer or whatever that guy's name is? You see these signs everywhere for old Paul Gracer? No? Yeah, $600,000 snow crab. The heist of the century. I can't get a straight answer of like what it actually is, like what actually happened to Paul. If any of you have it, I'd really like to know. So again, it's like, here's what we do. I don't even know how I got there, but this signs fascinate me. Have you guys seen these signs? The snow crab? Okay. You're driving in, I saw like 3 of them. I was like, all right. So again, it's not about you, it's about I get you. I know what's happening in your world. I'm a thought leader, etc. Like, I know what's happening. This is what you're doing, and it's been this way for a long time. Again, just some more examples, targeted ads, etc. These are just plays that people are running. Like, these aren't even like big companies that are running these plays, right? It's just like they're just going deep on a very small amount of accounts, so it's easier. It's really tough to run these more complex plays if you're trying to do it across like 500 accounts with like 3 people. But if you're only focusing on your top 20 or 30 accounts, you can do this stuff. It's easier. So this is an example of like a super, super, super basic cadence. But just so you guys know, so we did a study. One of our clients, they've got 50 sales development reps. And we looked at, to try to find the statistical relevance between conversion rates from an email or call between touch points 1 and 18, and there was 0 statistical significance. Touch point 5 was just as likely as touch point 13 to convert to a meeting. Like, the reason that most of you can't get meetings is you give up. Oh, I reached out twice. Timmy didn't respond. Like, Timmy's busy. Like, you think, like, what do you do with every single first email? Sales email. Archive. Second one, archive. Third one, fucking Timmy, man. Archive. Fourth one, I'm like, man, who is this dude? You know what I mean? Like, it takes time. The reason that most of you fail is you give up too early. That's what it is, right? And so again, this amount of touch points is super common. 7 emails over the course of a month. What do we have? 7 calls over the course of a month. A couple different social touch points. Super common. Like, that's the whole problem, is all of you are like, I don't want to spam people. I don't want to be annoying. Well, and you don't want to set meetings. You know what I mean? You give up after 2 or 3. Dude, these people are busy. Like an executive takes a lot longer than a marketing manager, to get in front of. These people are super, super busy, and it's persistence. Again, because 98% of people won't do this, right? So a lot of this is just persistence, and so that's why, again, a lot of these cadences, we've got a sheet, SalesLoft did a really good, actually, case on this, where they put together some of like the top performing cadences over like tens of thousands of these. It's really good. Yeah, and what they found too is that for emails, it's like I think the number was like 18% personalization leads to 2x results and replies. So you don't have to do, like when I talk about personalization, it's not like every sentence is personalized. It's like I've tweaked part of it so Mark knows that, hey, you actually looked, you know who I am. But the rest of it is about the industry or something like that. So a lot of these emails, they're not all personalized, right? But they're not all generic either, you know? And maybe like my follow-up email might be a little more generic, right? So these are just some ways to think about it, of like the scale here, right? What we've found is like some of the things, especially for those of you who do local, anything local, the things that are like most important is relevant industry competitors. Like if you are, you know, selling into manufacturing, I don't care that you work with Microsoft. Like I don't care. I'm like a small manufacturer in New Brunswick. Like, do you think I give a shit you work with Microsoft or that you work with whatever, 3M? Like I don't care. Right? The other point, many times people reference the wrong competitor set. They don't try to show people themselves in the mirror. Like, that's great that these other people do it. Like, you don't get me. So you have to have relevant size and relevant industry when you reference competitors. It's so, so, so critical, right? If I'm a local fisherman or whatever, I've got, you know, 2 or 3 boats in like one part of Atlantic Canada, and you reference, and we work with this other blah, blah, blah that has like 20 boats. I'm like, dude, like, I don't care. You know, like, you don't get me. You know, so I think where a lot of people, you know, just making sure that you have different competitor sets for different groups is really important. Location is also really important. I work with other VPs of operations in industrial manufacturing in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, cool. Like that gets more and more, and that, I can custom field all that, right? That's like somewhere in the middle here, right? So it's like a lighter spin. So this is kind of how you think about it. So the more transactional your product is, or if you're B2C, the more on this sector you kind of have to be. The more your product is highly customized. We've got clients that take, some of their enterprise reps, they take 5 hours to write one email. 5 hours. If it's a $400,000 product, like, so, right? And some people, it's like, oh my, what? Right? It's because like they're going out, they're doing research, they're putting together this. They go and read the annual report. Then they pull out, I read your last 3 annual reports. Here's what I found, John Smith. From your last 3 annual reports, this is the theme that comes out. You know what I mean? Like, if the product's $400,000, like, cool, like, do it. You know? If it's $400, like, can't do it. Sorry. Like, but instead, we can do some of these custom objects. So a lot of these, actually, I'm going to show you some templates here in a second. Track and optimize. So again, the final step, if you cannot track what you're doing, you cannot get better at it. Imagine like an Olympic athlete like not timing themselves. They're just like, I'm just going to run real fast every time. Like, no, like that's not how it works. It's like the whole point, why I showed you guys all those technologies, and I know a lot of you, I talked to a lot of you last night, I know a lot of you were overwhelmed by the technology slide, right? And all those slides like, oh my God, like what the hell is this, right? But the reason I show it to you is like, if you cannot track it, how can you get better at it, right? So as you go through all these steps that I just talked about, right? If you go through these 8 steps, right? How can you get better if you're not tracking it, right? And that's why it's important, again, to use HubSpot sequences or SalesLoft or Outreach, because I can track the results, right? If not, you're just throwing a bunch, you're guessing. You're just like, oh, this email template really works. Like, no, it actually doesn't, dude. It's like 32% open rate, like 6% reply rate, you know? So I'll show you guys some good emails too. So again, I'm going to share these slides with you. Almost all of you will do outbound at some point. If you are in B2B or B2C plus, like you will be doing outbound, right? There is no doubt that you will be doing it, right? And so the key is like, I promise you, if you just literally take your time and follow these 8 steps, you're going to be in a much better place than if you just kind of rush into it. And that's what a lot of, 70% of companies just rush into it. It's like a fast 70%. This is like a picture of like a report from SalesLoft, for example. Okay, so this is what I know a lot of you really care about, which is like, okay, great, Jake, now what do I say in my content? Even though everything I just told you is way more important. Like, track what you're doing, etc. I'm going to talk to you about messaging. I just told you SalesLoft did the number. They analyzed tens, hundreds of thousands of emails, 18% personalization, 2x results. So therefore, if you just do a little bit, doesn't have to be everything, just a little bit, okay? Right? This, I think, is really important, that most people think that your value props suck. Right? Most people are like, yeah, the value prop's just not compelling to me to actually set a meeting, you know, timing, whatever it might be. Okay, so what are the things that you need to think about that goes into a good messaging? This is the same across your cold call, your email, your LinkedIn message. They're all similar themed. When you look at like the email templates we write are similar to the cold call scripts that we write. They all kind of like look very similar. Frame it. Keep it simple. Like a typical email, 5 sentences is a good. 5 is money. 7, any more than that, dead. No more than 7. Cannot have more than 7. 5 is better. You need to be able to say what you can do and how you can help quickly. How do you think most people, I don't have my phone. How do you think most people are reading your email? Do you guys know how much 10 sentences look like on a scroll? It's like 4 scrolls. Nope. Damn, dude, this is long. Like you're writing it on your desktop, so you're like, oh, this doesn't look too bad. But on my mobile, it's like, swipe left. Be a challenger. So this is the other thing. The job of your cold call and your email is not to educate me on your product, right? It's to pique my interest. So I'm like, oh, okay, like that's kind of interesting. Like that's it. Like that's the whole job. The whole job is to say, that's kind of interesting, cool, I want to learn more. That's it, right? The other thing, I won't digress too much here, that's something, well, Canadians aren't that different. Europeans really struggle with this. In the US, like we'll take a lot of meetings. Like we'll take meetings with people and tell you how great or whatever your thing is, and then like never follow back up with you, ever. Oh man, this is really interesting. This is really great. Like I just need to pique your interest, right? But it doesn't mean I'm actually, the difference, like if you do business in Germany or other, if they take a meeting, they're interested. Like there's like an implied interest. In the States in particular, nah, we're cool. Like I just want to learn, right? Maybe there's like some amount of like this is important, right? But a lot of people spin a lot of their wheels. Like all I'm trying to do is pique your interest to get the meeting. Then I need to raise it to where it's something this is important. Then I'm going to educate you on why we should do business together. But at first I need to do is just pique your interest enough to like want to meet. And that's where kind of being a challenger comes in. I haven't really talked about this. I'll talk about it a little bit more this afternoon. How many of you have read a book called The Challenger Sale? Yeah, one. My man here, dude. Reading it? I like it. He's got it. Challenger Sale is another book. Mark, we were talking about books. That's a book everyone should read. But a challenger, they did a lot of data, like in our last financial meltdowns. They did a study over thousands of salespeople between like 2008 and 2010 or 11. And they looked at the persona of the people that were actually successful. The persona of a salesperson of the relationship builder, which is kind of like the traditional persona we think of. Hey, what's going on, Pierre? How are you? Seek consensus. Oh, that's great. Oh, you want to do that? Okay, sure, yeah, let's, the customer's always right, blah, blah, blah. No, that person was like perfectly like a B player. The A players there were 2 personas that were consistently A players. There's the lone wolf, which is that person who's out there just like winging it. I mean, you know this person, they're a stand-up comedian on the side. Like, like they're into like, they're also an engineer, or like something weird, like those people that are just good naturally. And they're also the people that I talked about yesterday that I have to isolate like as I grow and as I scale, because like I can't replicate that, right? But the challenger was the other persona that was consistently an A player, and that's someone who's like okay with like, look, Pierre, this is what's happening in the world today. And this is just kind of what it is. Like, do you see it this way? And if you don't, cool, then we're probably not going to do business together, because this is what I do. I solve for like this new thing. And so I'm okay with kind of challenging, not confronting, but I'm okay with like not seeking consensus all the time. Of like, oh, okay, sure, yeah. Canadians are all nice, okay, yeah. It's okay, like again, it's not being rude. It's like, I know, like, look, if I can't get you to align to my worldview, like that this thing is important, that the quality of the way that I'm like taking in sounds from the ocean is important, if I don't think that that is important, I'm never going to buy from you. You're never going to convince me, if I just don't think it's important. Right? So this last one is what I want you all to think about. Every single email you write, this is the mindset that I want you to think about. All of us are individuals first, employees second, and then we give a shit about the company. Right? I care about my kids, my wife, what's going to happen, this weekend. Then I care about my job and the things that I'm doing, and then I give a shit about the company I work for. That's every one of you. Right? If you're a CEO, it's a little bit different, right? Like it's kind of like all married into one. But a lot of us, we don't do that. Instead, we talk about, oh, hey, I work with your company, and I know your company, and I do this. Like, you got to connect with me first. It's like a person. I'm a human first, right? So that's where it goes back. Like, look, I work with lots of people. I know you're sick of your boss being on your back. I know you're sick of doing this, da-da-da. This is how we help other people like that. Let's set up time to meet. So I'm trying to connect with you to get you to see that I know, what you are and what you're going through, as opposed to I can help your company. We help other companies like yours. No, I help other Pierres do these two things, right? And it's a much different, because again, just think of all of you as employees. If I'm like, Diana, I can make your life easier by doing these things, as opposed to like, I help companies like this. As you get up there in the chain, people will care more about the company, but that's just at the top. I'm sorry, CEOs, like that's just how it is. People care about themselves. So that's what every message that you write, that's the mindset I want you to have. I want you to think, if I'm an individual, do I give a shit? If I'm an individual, like, do I care? Because again, I want you to put yourselves, like, again, if I'm like, look, Pierre, I'm going to help you to sell more stuff, as opposed to like, I've helped other listening device organizations do whatever, blah, 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 as opposed to like, I work with salespeople helping them to do X, Y, Z that's going to generate results for you, right? Like, that's talking to him, not to his company. So when you're thinking about messaging, all of you should be thinking about it with like this last lens. Okay, so these are like tried and true. And like we've got a whole bunch of tricks and like a whole bunch of stuff I can give you. These are subject line examples, okay? Time to connect in a date is old faithful. It does not matter the industry. Time to connect, date, I can get a 40% open rate on that every industry. It's very clear. I'm sending you an email to meet with you. It's stupid. It's easy. But this guy's been working for a long time, right? This one crushes, right? So this referred to you via CFOs. This only use this if like, and we've got a whole bunch of these too. Like I can help you with like whatever your industry is. If you sell a legal tech product, what we did is we had them, they called into the CFO's office. They said, hey, John Henderson handles like our legal and our billing. Does he handle like legal billing and like your outsourced legal vendors? Yeah, he does. Okay, cool. And that was the secretary of the CFO, right, who was Susan Smith. Hey, John, I just talked to Susie Smith's office. She says I should talk to you about legal and procurement. Crushed. Like 60%, 60+%. We had like an 18, 19% reply rate. So it's all about like knowing your audience. Now that does not play in small companies. Like you have to have big companies. Because what you have to understand, companies don't talk to each other. Not even 20-person companies does engineering go and talk to sales. Or does product go and talk to, whoever, right? Like companies do not talk to each other, right? So again, like that's why when you get transferred, getting transferred can be like a really good tactic for cold calling. Because you can say, look, I've talked to 2 or 3 people in the organization. You got to help me out. I'm trying to find the person who handles like X, Y, Z. Is that your role? Perfect. Here's what we do. And then you kind of launch into it. People want to help. So these are just some like basic things here, right? That's another one. Call into, let's say you sell into marketing at big companies. I call the CMO's office. Hey, who handles like your social media? Is that Rachel Hunter? I already know because I already looked on LinkedIn and I know exactly what her name is. Yeah, that's probably right. So if I want to talk to someone about social media at Kraft, I should talk to Rachel? Yep, that's probably right. Boom. Hey, Rachel, I was referred to you from Jessica's office. She said you handle this and we should set up time to meet. Assumptive. Don't lie. Don't lie. Black, white, gray, right? So these are just some ideas I want you guys to think about and think about how terribly marketing most of your subject lines are. And you're like, who is I? I was talking to someone. Like, yeah, we got like a 9% or 10% open rate. I'm like, that is garbage. If you're getting a 15% open rate, garbage. Like, if you can't get like a 30, 40% open rate, like, garbage. Because again, I already know half those are because mobile reads opens wrong. Like, so I even know if I'm getting like 40%, like in reality, probably only like 20% of people like actually read it. So if you're getting 15, you're getting like 5. Yeah.
Time to meet really has that high.
Yeah, dude. I know. Dude, time to meet, like, but you have to put the date. I think she should have put the date up there. Like that time to connect date, dude, like it won't always get 55, but it'll get 30 to 40 every time, dude. Time to connect dash date. Why? Because you're like, oh, what does this person want to meet about? right? Or we'll put company name / our company name - time to connect - date. And by the way, the other thing is we're thoughtful. You don't ever put tomorrow. You put like 2 weeks from now. If you're a VP, like look, if you're selling to a mid-size organization, mid-size, 400, 500 people, I'm a VP. You ask me if I can meet, today's what, Wednesday, on Friday? Do you know what my schedule is on Friday? Screwed. Do you know what it is next Monday, Tuesday? Equally. Like, if you're a VP at a larger company, I'm going to ask you to meet like in a week and a half. Because I get it. You're the VP of operations at Schlumberger. Like, you're not going to be able to meet with me for 3 weeks. There's no way. You're the CHRO at a big company. It just shows that you don't get it if you ask me to meet on Friday. I'm like, Friday? Are you insane? You know? So, like, the key is, like, when you pick the date, like, we pick a date that's, like, a week and a half out. It's just another, like, psychology thing, too. We as people, it's like, if I'm like, hey, let's set up time to meet in a few weeks. You're like, yeah, cool, no problem. I'm like, let's set up time to meet Friday. You're like, right? It's also a human nature. Like, the farther things out, we don't calculate it with the same amount of fear. You know, whenever, like, if the wolf's over there versus the wolf's here, you know, like, we're like, the wolf's over there, it's fine, right? Not that you should be a wolf, I'm just saying, like, an analogy. Or a Yodi, I guess, right? Yodi? Okay, so this is one that crushed. This is one that got, like, what did this do, like 18%? I think we got like a 15, 18% reply rate. So again, looked at your LinkedIn profile, custom message, well-crafted message, relates products, common pain point, etc. That's why step one in most of our Cadence is research. So I load our teams, they load 10 people in. Day one, research. Day two or day three, email, right? Because the worst thing you can do is switching costs. Research someone, go back, research someone, go back, research. Nope, research all the things I know I'm going to need, then send out. Right, so again, the other thing is always suggest, this one doesn't have a time on it. I'm a big fan of suggesting a time too. This has dates on it, but always suggest a date. Again, if I say, you're CEO, hey, what's your schedule look like next week? What's your response? Screwed, exactly. If I say every CEO, every executive, same answer. What's your schedule look like next week? Screwed. If I say, what's your schedule look like Friday morning between 8 to 10? Like, no, that doesn't work. Maybe this works. A lot of times you think you're doing someone a favor by not offering a date and time. You're not. You're actually making it harder for me. As a decision maker, you're making it harder for me to meet with you by not suggesting a date and time. You are not making it easier for me. I think most of you think you're making it easier for me. You are not making it easier for me. Does that make sense intuitively? Like, it actually is better to say, hey, I'm actually open next week on Thursday and Friday between 2 to 4. Let me know which block works best for you. Higher likelihood, right? Higher likelihood. It's easier for you to say yes, because then you can just look at those blocks and say no or yes or archive. Yeah. Yeah, you know, so those tools are becoming, so his question, if you didn't hear it, there's tools like Calendly, SalesLoft has a plugin, Outreach has a plugin, Chili Piper's another one. There's a lot of tools that have emerged that will let you book meetings with me. So I can just send you a link, you know, calendly.ly/Jake Dunlap, and you can just click and it syncs to my calendar, and you can just book 30 minutes with me, right? I'm a big fan of doing that like email 3 or 4, right? And saying, or having it in your signature, saying like, if these times don't work, here's my availability if that's easier for you, right? But I always try to preface it, if it's easier for you, because it's becoming more socially acceptable. But like 2 years ago, I think a lot of executives are like, oh wait, I've got to come book time with you. I think there's a lot of like bravado, but now that I think more and more people are using these types of links, I think it's becoming like, okay to try it. Have any of you, do you guys use these tools? Do you guys use these tools? Yeah, what do you use? HubSpot Meetings, of course. You guys, there you go, HubSpot Meetings. So exactly, so just so everyone knows, these tools allow them to like see into your calendar, so they can just book a time, right? And again, it's just becoming more socially acceptable. So If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I'd had like a violent reaction to it. But now it's like as things become more socially acceptable, you're like, yeah, cool. So I'm totally fine with it. A lot of reps, what I see a lot of reps doing is they just include it in their email signature. Just like, feel free, you can always book a time with me here. All right, this is that. This is, again, referred from the COO's office. I just spoke to John's office. This pointed best person to connect, blah, blah, blah. This one did like, okay. This one sucked, bad, real bad. This one had like 18% or something like open rate. Never used checking in, connecting, catch up, touch base. I'll really hammer you on that like this afternoon. But again, this is what a lot of them look like. At Dose Doctor, we're a telemedicine company that helps reduce hospital-ready admissions by offering patients. Yeah, it's like people laugh, but this is what your fucking emails look like. I promise you. Like if I go and I pull half of your emails, I promise you they look like this. Right? Like and again, you laugh because like deep down, like in your mind, you're like, but this is really good stuff. It's about my product, and we really are helping and doing this good stuff. It's like, don't care. How's this relevant? You're making me connect a bunch of dots here, right? So this email did not perform well, very, very badly. So again, not a big fan of ever making salespeople. We almost always start off our cadences with emails, right? And then a lot of our voicemail messaging as well too will reference the email. A lot of people, it's just easier. How many of you guys listen to voicemails? All of them? Nope. Listen to some, right? But not all. Right? So again, we'll use our voicemails to reference the email many times. Hey, John, this is Jake with Skaled. I just sent you over a quick email. Feel free to take a look if that's easier. Quick little value prop, 25 seconds. Thanks, man. Let me know if that date and time works for you. Looking forward to the conversation. Voicemail, quick, easy. Don't try to sell in the voicemail, right? All right. So this is really important. So as you guys start to do your testing, as you start to think about doing like testing around this, and you're using templates, et cetera, we do a lot of like small batch testing, right? So what I mean by that is you don't need to, when you start to do these outreach, right? When you start to do your cadences, et cetera, what I want to try to do is I don't want to put all of my best people in the cadence first. I want to start to test some of the messaging. What's going to get me the highest open rates? What's going to get me the highest reply rates? What's going to get me a click rate, et cetera? So the other thing to think about is, like, let's say if I target 2 different verticals, right? If I'm going after, I'm just going to use manufacturing, and I go after, what's another one? I don't know. Finance. We'll just use those 2. If I go after manufacturing, I go after finance. Those are 2 verticals. Within those verticals, I'm usually doing one of 2 things, right? One, I'm creating persona-based cadences within those verticals. So for my manufacturing, I've got a VP of product cadence. I've got a VP of operations cadence. I've got maybe it's a floor operations manager cadence and a whatever manager cadence. So within that, I have different cadences for those individual people. And then we create snippets, which are basically things that I can copy and paste into the templates that are based on size. So then it's like, cool, small, medium, large. Or you could just create small, medium, large for each one of these. So you keep in mind, if I'm going after 2 verticals, I mean, it's the equivalent of basically creating 24 different cadences by creating 4 for each one and then having 3 snippets for each other ones. That's table stakes. So if you're just sending out emails and you've got 1 cadence to like a group of people, that's why it's not working, right? And again, it's all about the legwork. People are lazy. You just want to go. You value startups. We value action too fast many times. Ship it, right? It's like go, go, go. Many times, like just take a day. Build the cadences. Get smart on the messaging. It does not take that much time to adapt a cadence, like the messaging from this persona to this persona, right? You're not starting from scratch every time, but yeah, it takes a day or 2. But again, a lot of times we get lazy. We create 1 or 2 email sequences and we're like, ship it. And we don't track it. We don't do that. So again, we do a lot of testing. That's why we use these tools. And this is again, like, I'm going to beat you every time. It doesn't matter how good of a copywriter you are because I'm just going to test and I'm going to optimize. And it's like, that's the whole point of, like, that's why I talked so much yesterday about sales technology that, like, you can't beat me. I'm using too much technology for you to beat me. Like, I don't care how good of a copywriter you are. I'm just going to out-optimize you over time in the long run. Like, it's impossible for you to beat me. So if you want to be that old school salesperson who's not going to test, who's all going to go by gut, you might beat me out of the gate, but I'm going to beat you in the long game, for sure. Because I'm just going to use technology. I'm just going to optimize. My account selection is going to get better over time. My messaging is going to get better over time. I'm going to win every single time, right? And that's the game that a lot of startups are playing. Like, again, you don't have to be like the greatest whatever salesperson. Just look at the data, like what's working, what's not. Again, we have to make sure this is syncing with the CRM. So again, like these guys are using like HubSpot for sales. You guys are using HubSpot for sales. That data is coming in, so then I can look at performance in my CRM. If you use SalesLoft or use Outreach, they also will sync with Salesforce and Dynamics as well. Because again, you need to log the activity. You need to see what's happening. So final thoughts. Tech, personalize, customize, right? And hopefully, again, what I want you guys to see from like the email examples is like what real personalization looks like versus what you think is personalization, which is like, I work with other VPs, and at Dose Doctor, we do this, this, and this. So again, you guys should be able to just take this deck and literally just start to do it, right? Like, there's going to be nuances, I know, for a lot of you that have small teams about like how much can marketing help. You might not have marketing, right? I get it, right? Because a lot of you, this is going to be like 8 steps down the road. But the key is like a lot of the things we're talking about, being smart about the accounts you select, building out buyer personas, right? Being thoughtful about your messaging. All of those are things that you can do, right? All those things are 100% in your control that you can do. And I just gave you the blueprint for like the messaging, right? So when it comes to outbound, and we're going to do some Q&A right now, and then we'll take another break, is, you know, when you think about the messaging, 18% personalization, 2x results. Like, you should guys, SalesLoft wrote this ebook. If you just Google like SalesLoft, or if you email me, I'll send it to you. But the curve, it's like your classic plateau curve. It's like the diminishing returns, right? It's like personalization up, 18%. Like, you see some returns, it's just not worth it, you know? So again, I think for a lot of people, we're not talking about a lot of personalization, but that little bit, I mean, the data, it's just data. The data says it's 2x, so guess what? I'm going to do 18% personalization. Like, that's what the data says. I'll just do it, right? So again, for a lot of you, I know outbound is something. We talked a little bit here about value in the messaging too, about what is like real value. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But what questions do you all have about outbound, right? Whether it's about, hey, Jake, here's where we're at with outbound. Here's what's worked for us. Here's what hasn't worked. What questions do you guys have about kind of engaging with people who haven't heard of you? Yeah.
With a small company, business to consumer, the big thing is to get a profile of the potential market. Okay, so wouldn't that involve, in effect, account management at the, just as a tool to find out who your customers are in the first place? And then you can drop back to then bulk messaging or bulk marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to test it, though. I mean, I think intuitively when you're starting to take a product to market, you have like an idea. You're probably like, it's in this pool like over here, right? Because if it's
Find that pool. You got to get the names of the.
dude, yeah, and the key is like you sell a health product. All you have to go to Instagram, search health, wellness, Nova Scotia. Then I'll go to the next step. I'll type in tea. The people that have the word tea in their profile have shared things about tea. And I'm just going to direct message those people. Like, to me, like the B2C market, you know, again, she has the bionic knee, right? It's the same thing. I'm going to go look at the people talking about injury recovery. I'm going to go look at the people talking, and I'm just going to direct message 100 people a day. Hey, this is what we're doing. Can I send you a sample? Hey, this is what we're doing. Can I send you a sample? Hey, this is what we're doing. Can I send you a sample? Hey, this is what we're doing. Can I send you a sample? That's my life. On the break here, that's what I do. I just go sit out, I get on my Instagram, and I just go DM. Like, that B2C is just, but LinkedIn's it's not that different. If I'm a B2B and I know that I sell to this group of like oceanographers, like, connect on LinkedIn. Hey, man, glad we connected. Hey, connect on LinkedIn. Hey, glad we connected. Hey, you know, like, it's a little different. Like, yours can be a little more call to action based because it's a consumer, whereas yours might be a little more nurture based. Like, hey, what's going on? Don't know if you're going to the conference and blah, blah, blah. Maybe we'll see you there. Thanks. You know, like, so, but I think for you in a B2C standpoint, it's It's just about doing one-to-one and using social media tools, especially Facebook and Instagram, to really target these people and just direct message, especially in the early days to like get your first 1,000 customers. Like I guarantee I could sell 1,000, but it'll easily get your first 1,000 customers in a month just by DMing 400 people a day. I literally would sit in my bus with the mushrooms and I would DM 400 people a day. That's what I do. And I know it's daunting, but I'm just telling you, like, it's doable. And that's what other influencers, that's what other B2C products are doing. They're creating really short videos on Instagram. How many of you guys have bought something off of Instagram? Boom. 6 people. This is the start. Instagram just started doing ads. What do you think it's going to look like next year? All of you. Man, you know how easy it is to buy stuff on Instagram? Boop, boop, boop. Not this V-neck, but I bought money V-necks. Jack Wellen. It's so funny. I talked to so many of my friends, and they're like, and I asked them that question. They're like, yeah, I bought these V-necks. It's like, dude, I bought those same V-necks. Like, they're just targeting like males in this demo with like V-necks and backpacks. Like, I feel like that's all they try to sell me, and maybe some like belts and shoes and stuff. But no, B2C, like that's just the world now. Like it's not complicated. It's just exactly what I said. Man, God, like I almost wish I ran like a consumer business, because the path to success to me has already been paved by so many tens of thousands of people on social media that the playbook is already there. B2B, like the playbook's new for social. Like I feel like you just have to go and execute the plays. Like don't reinvent the wheel. So B2C, I think you can get there, just it's different. It's more hands-on. All right, yeah.
Hey, I have a question for B2B outreach.
Yep.
So we have sequences teed up. We have about 5 emails per sequence.
Okay.
We've been seeing tremendous fall-off after email 3.
Yep.
So after a discussion, we kind of landed on, at least trying this out, reducing the amount of email that we send. Don't have enough data to support whether or not it works or not, but you showed before that you had like 70 emails or
Yep.
whatever. Like, do you have any tips or things you can recommend to pick up the engagement on those emails after like email 4, 5, 6?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of it's because it's been played out, the breakup email. Have any of you guys received a breakup email before? Which is like, hey, John, I'm sure you're busy, or you're a secret agent, or there's an alligator or a hippo or something. So I'm not a big fan of those. Look, we've got some clients that are running like 90-day nurture streams. They've got like 35 touch points over 90 days. They go like hard and heavy for a period, then they kind of phase out for 3 weeks, and then they go hard and heavy, and then it's like an email or so a week. Like each buyer is maybe a little bit different. I would argue, like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, why wouldn't you just keep going? And are you guys doing cold calls as well too? Are you doing calls?
We're not doing calls yet.
Yeah, you got to do calls, man. Because right now you're just doing 3 touch points and then you're going away. You're right, you will see some diminished returns like at times at those later stages. But if you just keep bringing the value, I think I think the problem I see with a lot of late stage emails is they get real lazy. They're like, hey, I wanted to follow up on my last email. Hey, I wanted to follow up on my last email. Like touch point 6 and 7. Is that what?
Yeah, that's been, yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, like, that's what most people's are. Yeah, that's what most people's are. Most people just, like, give up, or they, I just keep coming with value, man. Every touch point is like, look, man, I get it as a VP of operations. You're busy. I've sent you 4 emails. I'll just start to get, like, to call out the number of touch points, or touch point 6 or 7. You also want to kind of reduce the pressure. Like, at that point, I might kind of remember the name. It might look familiar. So say, hey, John, apologies. I've actually been out the last couple of weeks. I wanted to make sure we caught up on blah, 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 blah. Let's set up time to meet. We do that a lot with like people that go dark too. It's just a sales technique where it's like, if like you know that you haven't gotten back to me, but if I'm like, hey, Mark, apologies, man. I've been out for the last week and a half on site with clients. I want to make sure we pick back up the conversation where we left off, as opposed to, hey, Mark, I've sent you a few emails. You know, like, think about emotionally the difference between the two. You're like, oh, it's okay. As opposed to, like, oh, he's chasing me down. Oh, man, Jake won't go away. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to I take the blame. I fall on the sword. I'm like, oh, dude, hey, my apologies. I've been out for a couple weeks, et cetera. So I think I get it. I get it. Like, the continued catch-up emails, you won't. I would just keep going and add cold calls, man. And for you guys' product too, Is IT your main buyer? Is IT the main?
Yeah, it's machine learning and AI.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, yeah, and then I would just start this long play stuff we're talking about. I'd start to just all of you guys who are kind of like early here, starting to put out content about the importance of AI, the role AI is going to play in security in the future, et cetera, connecting with different thought leaders and just sharing content. And then that way, once you start the sequence, so that a lot of our cadences, what we've been doing now, the first week or 2 weeks, connect on LinkedIn, share, comment on one of their posts. 3 days later, share, comment on one of their posts. Day 6, like you could maybe try a different social media platform there. Then you come over the top with email. Hey, I've seen XYZ on LinkedIn. It seems like you're thinking about this. Here's a quick what's up on like what we're up to. Maybe it makes sense for us to connect next week. Social capital. And by the way, you know how it is. You usually don't set the meeting in the first week anyway. It's just changing what that first like 6 days worth of actions are to making them more about social interactions as opposed to direct email. But that's for his buyer. Your buyer, that's how I would slow play them just a little bit. Because you're connecting and building like a meaningful relationship too. Yeah.
You mentioned you're not a big fan of the breakup email.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? So we use a breakup email.
Yeah.
We have 8 touch points, 4 calls, 4 emails.
Yeah,
that
great.
Go back and forth. But our last email is a breakup email where it just mentions, we'll close your file, let us know if
Yeah.
you're interested in the future. But we get a lot of people coming back and running back. No, I'm interested. I've been busy.
Yeah, that's great.
Call me on this day. Schedule a time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Like, I think we're going to close your file. Look, it seems like you're too. I'm more of a fan of that as opposed to the kitschy stuff because from our testing at least, and like, look, if it works, then like, and it works in your audience, then do it. Like, I'm just telling you what the data that we've seen. But if it's working, keep doing it. What we would see is really high reply rates and like a 0% positive reply rate. It was like, hey, apologies. Yeah, I've been real busy. Now's not the right time. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. Now's not the right time. Like, literally. Almost all of them were negative replies. So we eventually were like, let's just stop doing it. But I like the idea, if there's some scarcity or something, like your product where it's like, hey, we thought you were a good fit. I know you probably have had some issues. I'll stop the follow-up now if you've been too busy. Maybe it plays a little bit better there than like software, you know? But it sounds less kitschy, right? The ones that a lot of people are using are like, you're either too busy, you know, like you're a secret agent or you're something, hippos on top of you or something, and I'll call, let me know and I'll call help. Like that's the stuff I'm just not a big fan of. It used to work though. See, my point about all of this is this. In 2 years from now, I'm probably gonna be telling you completely different things, right? And I'm like, just because like it is what it is. Like, dude, technology and like what's working as more and more people start to do the same thing, then the ball goes over here. Then, you know, who knows? Maybe there's be a new social platform in 3 years. You know, nobody will be on LinkedIn. I don't know. I'm not married to LinkedIn. But like, this is just what it is today. So like, but always, if it's working, and you're tracking it, not well, it works. Like, what's the actual like positive? And then if I track that down the funnel to conversion, you know, like that's what I would be really interested in. Do you have a question? Yeah. Yeah.
Every time they accept my invitation, I'm sending them a message. And I was afraid, now I'm going to expose myself. Well, first I was doing the posts, market or industry-related posts, commenting on people who were overseas teaching, being engaged. So I said, and you told me yesterday I should actually be doing these, you know, pre-orders, and I'm afraid of that because there's no prototype yet. But every time they would accept the invitation, I'm going to expose myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Hi, Alan. Great to connect. I'd love to tell you more about how my company, how my technologies can assist in student supervision via technology. Email anytime with questions or interests, and I'll be happy to speak or meet with you. And then I just put my email and my website link.
That's fine. That's casual.
That's it. And I have not had any. And I'd probably say there's problems. Then I stopped because.
Well, it's not like a hard CTA. I mean, well, the key is like it doesn't feel personal. Like there's nothing in there that I heard where I'm like, you know shit about my academy, you know anything about me and my trajectory. What I would do the next round is I'd spend 2 minutes and just look at his profile. And the other thing, again, like I would just slow play it a little bit, like maybe. But you could just try it right after. To me, again, it's all a science experiment. Maybe for your industry, it resonates right out of the gate. cool, test it. There's not just 30 people that you can sell to. There's hundreds, right? So like, I would say try it with just like a little bit more why me. Hey John, I saw your post on XYZ. If this is something you're thinking about, here's my email, would love to connect. If not, look forward to, like, I'll stay in touch, whatever that is. So just try to make it a little bit more about me. Because that's what gets me. Like, if you show that you've been thoughtful, you've researched Scaled, you have an idea of what we do, you comment, and you don't say, I also went to Arizona State, Jake, I know you got your MBA. Like, those are the things I ignore immediately. Like, Jake, we both went to Arizona State, like whatever it is, like I ignore that stuff immediately. But if it's like, I know that you've done some type of research and you've made it relevant as to why, then those are the times I take meetings. When it feels customized. And sometimes or you're lucky and the timing's right. It's a really bulk email, but the timing's right, so I take the meeting, That's okay. I mean, like, you're learning. Like, cool, awesome, didn't work. All of you, don't do what she just did. Great, now you're all one step closer. Like, it's not a zero-sum game. Like, you all win when we share this stuff. Just a question here? Yeah.
So sort of along the lines of what she was saying there, if you're in the prototyping phase, do you have any suggestions for reaching out to people?
Yeah, so I think when people are like at the prototyping or product feedback stage, pick what type of meeting you want to have. We as humans, we love to help, right? So we are usually more than willing to like help. Hey, I've seen your post on XYZ. We're actually building something around that. Like, let me know if you have a quick 5 minutes next Thursday. I want to talk you through it. Like, as we're thinking about our advisory board. Or you could try it like that. What doesn't typically work is mixing a product feedback meeting with a sales meeting. And this is what I see a lot of early stage companies do. They're like, hey, I'd love to walk you through it, and then it turns into a demo and you start pitching them. Like, make it a sales pitch or make it a product feedback, and you'll get better versions. Like, there's times when you can kind of mix it, but if I'm really focused on product feedback, I'm not trying to sell you. Like, how do you think you should push that button? Like, what do you think that arrow does? You know what I mean? Like, that's the mind I'm in, as opposed to like, well, what if this arrow moved up to the right? Like, if I'm in sales mode, I'm kind of like guiding you. Whereas product feedback mode, I'm just like, I don't know, how would you pick up that thing? Like, it's just two very different conversations. So I think if you start to reach out to like, don't reach out to senior people, but bottom to frontline, like mid-level to frontline manager level, and just talking about product feedback, like, hey, this is where we're at. I've seen, and make it relevant. I saw that you talked about this and this. I saw you went to this conference. We're thinking about that. Do you have 5 minutes next Thursday? I can walk you through how we're thinking about it. It'd be great to connect. So just be authentic. And like, you're gonna have to email 100 people and maybe only 10, or message 100 people. I mean, what if 5 say yes? Right?
Services that'll set those meetings up for as well.
Yeah. Product feedback meeting, yeah. No. But for free, you can do it yourself.
Yeah, so would you take the approach of researching these people on LinkedIn and then following them and then following up with an email, like you said there, like I read your profile on LinkedIn and it seems
Yeah, you can message them on. Here's the thing, just look to see if people are active on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn, you'll see activities, and then you can see if they like or share stuff, if they post themselves. So if they're active on LinkedIn, then I might engage them on LinkedIn. If not, then I might try to engage them on email for product feedback. Yeah. Some more. Somebody else had a question. Tara?
My question's not related to this, it was from earlier.
Okay,
I'm asking
that's fine.
In case everybody else is interested.
Yeah, sure.
as well. I've got a lot of connections on LinkedIn. Just started the business page for LinkedIn, so there's no followers.
Yeah.
Do you have any hacks or suggestions to get your followers up on your company page? Because it looks pretty sort of skimpy right now.
Yeah, you just got to connect with a bunch of people that are relevant.
And I'm connected with a bunch of people, and now I'm saying follow us, and I'm tagging the company. That's the kind of stuff I'm doing. Is there any other sort of insight? Okay.
No, there's no like organic. And the other thing, I was talking to one of you. Yeah, so we were talking as we were walking out. Nobody cares about your company page. Like, it's cool. Yours is a little different because it's ethical swag. So it's like, it's ethical. There's like a human connection there. But for most of your companies, it's actually Tara's following is actually more important.
Okay.
The way that you activate your own followers is more important. You want to get it to a certain level to where it looks respectable, a few thousand or something like that. And you should consistently be sharing. But you have to understand, Tara's voice and Ethical Swag's voice, although there's overlap, they're also very different. You can go and talk about the treatment of animals and like this, and you can have more of an opinion, whereas your company needs to usually like toe a line a little bit more. Or it could be totally flip-flopped. It could be Tara is this and Ethical Swag is this. But you are not your company. If you're a CEO, a CEO can get away with different things that a company can get away with, and vice versa. So I think it's really important as you think about your strategy going forward, it's a dual strategy. It's a Tara strategy, and what is Tara going to do to set herself up as a thought leader around the treatment, why ethical, why that matters, right? People care about it a lot more coming from a person than they do from a company, right? So that's how I would maybe think about it. Like, and then use the platform and maybe do like a post that you direct people to that's on Ethical Swag's like website, you know, to kind of drive some traffic. But there's no real like hack to like get the followers up that I know of. Yeah.
So if you get a situation like Tara's where she's an individual and a company, what do you do with people who have more than one company, more than one front, and you know, that the individual persona and who you are is really divided? How do you do that?
Well, I don't think the individual's ever divided, right? Like you are just who you are. Like the talking points are just like the talking point. You know, I think that's where you get in trouble is when you try to be vanilla and cross and try to be like, I do one post about this, then I do another post about this, and you do another post about to try to pacify, as opposed to like, what's the united theme? Is the united theme like, I'm bringing transparency to the whatever, this company does it this way, this company does it this way, this company does it this way. You know, it's like,
If you love snowboarding, and you also have your company, and you post a lot of both, does that divide your brand in some way?
100%. You got to make a choice. It's all good. Your choice can be, look, Facebook's my personal. Go create a Facebook page so you can still have Jake Dunlap Facebook profile. Then you create a Facebook page that is Jake Dunlap, speaker, blah, blah, blah. So that's how you can divide it, or choose to just talk about snowboarding. Cool, awesome, do it. You know, but yeah, it totally divides your brand. If you have an Instagram page or a Facebook page, I'm actually in the process of going through this like right now as we're trying to do this. It's really confusing for your viewers. Like if I'm gonna follow you and I'm getting this like motivational stuff, and it's like Jake with his family and Cape Breton, like what, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, so it's confusing. So yeah, my point is like, the move is actually, if you really are serious about it, to create a page and then you keep your personal page. So it becomes really clear for your audiences, this is this audience, and then this is like my private family friends group. Because you can still do that, it's easy. Instagram makes it really easy to convert to a paid profile too. It's a really, really good question. You just can't, at least I don't know of anybody who's doing it really well. You know, you look at any of the guys who are like at that next level, you look at the Tony Robbins, Gary V's, etc. Like, they don't talk about any of that shit. You know, maybe they'll mention it here or there, but that's it. All right, what else about outbound? We're good? Feel good? You guys feel like you have like at least something to work for about like what outbound might look like? More tactical? I see more head nods than like what the just happened than yesterday, which is good. And again, we can talk a lot about this. Like outbound, I know it's just, I think it's about perseverance. You know, just keep grinding. You keep grinding. You keep grinding. You know, it's like don't be discouraged. You don't get results. Just as long as you're measuring it, you're learning. You know, it's like a science experiment. Cool. Then I create another hypothesis and I test my hypothesis. My hypothesis is either correct or not correct. And then I make assumptions based on the data and I test another hypothesis. Like if you're a chemistry or biology person, like that's just how you do science. That's how you do science.